welcome to the March 20th, 2019 meeting of the Daytona Beach City Commission. We're delighted to have each of you with us this evening. This time, Ms. LaMagna will review the procedures for tonight's meeting.
Good evening. Agendas are available in the front of the room on the table to my right. All the exhibits pertaining to items on the agenda are posted on the bulletin board. Please feel free to view the exhibits at any time during tonight's meeting. You are required to fill out a yellow form to speak before the City Commission during the business meeting. The yellow forms are located next to the Assistant City Clerk, Ms. Allison Brown. You must complete the sections that ask for your name, address, agenda item number, signature, and date. The form must be placed in the designated box. Items on the agenda for first reading usually do not allow for public participation. However, there are some instances where citizens are allowed to speak on first reading items when they are considered public hearings. Items on the agenda for second reading are open for public hearing, and citizens may speak at the designated time. Resolutions that are administrative item number 10 are open for public comments, and you may fill out a yellow form to speak when that item is called. Item number 7 is your opportunity to address the City Commission concerning any item on the consent agenda. Please indicate on the yellow speaker sheet the agenda item number of the item you are addressing. Items or discussions not listed on the consent agenda will not be heard during this comment section. All citizens completing a yellow form will be allowed to speak for 2.5 minutes. When you approach the lectern, please speak clearly into the microphone and give your full name and address. The 2.5-minute clock on the monitor above and directly in front of you will start running when you begin to speak. Pay close attention to your time. You will be told when your time has expired. Item number 13 is the public comment forum, and it will convene after the adjournment of the business meeting. This is the opportunity for the public to speak on any issue that is not on the business meeting agenda. All citizens completing the green form will be allowed to speak for 2.5 minutes. When you approach the lectern, please give your full name and address. Disorderly conduct in the public meeting of the City Commission. Article 2, Section 6238 of the City Code of Ordinances reads as follows. It shall be unlawful for any person to behave in a riotous or disorderly manner in any public meeting of the City Commission, or any committee, agency, or board thereof, or to cause unnecessary disturbances therein by force, shouting, or any other action calculated to disrupt such meeting, or to refuse to obey any ruling of the presiding officer or such meeting relative to the orderly process thereof. Please be courteous and respectful of the views of others. Personal attacks on the City Commission, city staff, or members of the public are not allowed. Please silence cell phones and other wireless devices during the meeting. All conversation must take place either at the lectern or on the dais so that everyone can hear the business being discussed tonight.
Ms. LaMagna, may we have the roll call?
Commissioner Henry?
Here.
Commissioner Reed?
Here.
Commissioner Traeger?
Here.
Commissioner Delgado?
Here.
Commissioner May? Here. Commissioner Gilliland?
Here.
Mayor Derek L. Henry.
Here.
We'll now move on to item number 4, which is the approval of the minutes of the February 6, 2019 half-cent sales tax workshop and the February 20th, 2019 business meeting of the City Commission.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we'll take the motion from Commissioner Traeger and the second from Commissioner Reed. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those in opposition, same sign. This motion carries 7-0. We'll now move on to agenda item number 5. If there are any changes to our agenda, our city manager will address them at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have 2 changes. We're going to take item 8N, Thurman House, vacant land contract. We'll remove it from the agenda tonight. We'll bring it back at a later time. We're going to take item 8C as health and dental insurance, and we'll address that item we'll remove it from the consent agenda and take it as the first item after the agenda. Okay.
Oh, okay. No worries. All right. All right. We have a motion and a...
Oh, motion.
Second.
Okay. Motion, Commissioner
I made my
Gilliland.
second. Was I the
okay.
second on that one?
Well, I think she made the original motion and you made the second, so...
So if she amended her motion, I amended my second.
Right.
Is that what it was? All right. We'll take it. That works. All right. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those in opposition, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, now moving on to item number 6 is our presentation. Item number 6A is the beautification awards for March of 2019. A member of the Beautification Tree Advisory Board to present.
exciting meeting to be presenting a beautification award. Mayor Henry, members of the City Commission, and Mr. Chisholm, my name is Marty Grimshaw, and I live at 4 Granville Circle. The Beautification Advisory Board has selected John and Trinica Huger, 922 Sycamore Street, as the Residential Beautification Award winner for the month of March 2019. Mr. and Mrs. Huger are lifetime residents of Daytona Beach and have resided at this address for 28 years. Their love of their home and take pride in maintaining their yard with the help of Victor Brown Landscaping. The types of trees and shrubs and plants used for beautification in their home include roses, boxwood, oak trees, hibiscus crotons, hollyberry, palm trees, including pro-apple palms. City Commissioner Paula Reed, Zone 6, will be presenting the award. I think their family's here.
Oh, they are. First, let me say this about the wife. She's a Delta. And the husband and son, A by A. You know, it's one thing when I give this award to folks that I don't know. But when you give it to folks that you know, it gives you even a greater pride. If you don't know this family, my predecessor, Jimmy Huger, this is his son. And he was the first African-American city commissioner on this day. So I know he's very proud, and so is Mother Fanny, that you are maintaining your property. You know, what God gives to you is your responsibility to take care of. And when you look at the citizenry and look at our homes in Daytona, that's your safe haven. That's a place where you go to rest. And when you get there, you should be well pleased. Now, this young lady can take dirt and make it into something. She designs for her sorority, and everything she does is absolutely beautiful. So I am not surprised that you all have won this. Little John here, JR, was in my speech class. He earned his A. I did not give him his A. So as you can tell, I know this family well. I am so proud of you all. I'm surprised your house hasn't received this prize. Have you ever done this? Okay. It must have been part of my 6 years. Okay, so we're coming around again. And let me also thank the Beautification Committee, because I currently don't have a Zone 6 representative, but I got one coming. And for you all to find a home within my zone that truly represents beautification, I am well pleased. So let me read this to you all. Certification of Achievement. May it be known that this certificate has been presented to John and Trinica Huger and Luke John for distinguished achievement in residential beautification, City of Daytona Beach, presented this 20th day of March 2019, signed by our Mayor, Derek L. Henry, and your Commissioner, Paula R. Reed. Congratulations. You better hold it. Let's get a picture, everybody. GR, you get on the other side. I'm going to be the creamy filling with your mom.
And you know, I would just have to say that you all are always welcome in City Hall. Your mother was my principal, and I adored her. But I have to say, y'all can't come back without bringing that beautiful grandbaby. All right, thank you.
Right.
Congratulations.
And my beauty is still running well.
All right.
But I'll find you when I need you.
Oh,
That's just what we need tonight.
yeah, a little warm.
We also, the Beautification Tree Advisory Board has selected Cheddar's Scratch Kitchen, 1770 West International Speedway Boulevard, as the Commercial Beautification Award winner for the month of March. The restaurant has been located at this address for 3.5 years and is incorporated with Darden Restaurants. The beautiful landscaping has added around the building to enhance the guests' visual upon arrival. The property is maintained by Chris Campbell with Pinnacle Land Maintenance. The types of trees, shrubs, and plants used for their beautification include muhly grass, blue days, agapanthus with lauropetalum, Walter's dwarf viburnum, Eagleston holly, African iris, juniper, and Indian hawthorn. Mayor Henry will present the award. We have representatives? Good.
Well, the city manager and I have run into each other on a number of occasions in the Cheddar's parking lot picking up food to go. You guys are really making home cooking difficult at my house because you challenge the highest standards of cuisine. So we appreciate not only the wonderful job that you folks are doing in the kitchen, but we appreciate the fact that you're taking such great care of the property. So welcome to Daytona Beach and continued success on maintaining the property and continuing to feed those of us who are having a hard time in the kitchen.
Moving on to item 6B, it's a presentation and recommendation from the 2019 Audit Selection Committee.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, my name is Tom Cox. I'm the chairman of the Auditors Selection Committee. We were convened, a group of us, Bob Goldberg, Dan Bolerjack, and myself, at the request of Patricia Bliss, to review the opportunity to select an auditor for the city. The opportunity came up to potentially continue with the use of Carr, Riggs & Ingram, the incumbent auditor. And after some consideration and review, we came up with a recommendation to go ahead and do exactly that, to suggest the negotiation of a contract to continue with Carr, Riggs & Ingram for a specified period and for a specified fee. We have a letter, I believe, that has gone out to each of you that describes our due diligence process and what we did. We stepped through the process of looking not only at the contract, but also Patricia went through your legal department and requested a look at whether or not it was even feasible to do so, and there was no obstacle to that. Our commentary, as we assembled a group of auditors. I had the privilege and opportunity to audit the city back in the 1980s. Had a brief 6-week career as your budget director before leaving to join as chief financial officer of a local company. But the fact is we look at the audit as being a fundamentally necessary and disruptive process. You have developed a great relationship with Carr, Riggs & Ingram. They're doing a good job for you. They're efficient. They're doing an effective job for you, and consequently, given the ramp-up time that it takes for a new auditor to come on board, and with the new accounting principles that are coming down the pike, particularly as they relate to leases, which are broad issues that are going to affect a great deal of the transactions in the city, as well as pensions and health care benefits and so on. It was our recommendation that you continue with Carr, Riggs & Ingram. That's our report.
Okay. Thank you as always.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to item number 7. This is public comments by people addressing the City Commission. During this time, the citizens have the opportunity to address the City Commission on any item that's on the consent agenda. My first speaker is John Nicholson, and on deck is Ann Ruby.
John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. You didn't list them. EFGHL. First one, I couldn't tell from the diagrams, the wall during Riverfront Park. We've had 3 different ones over my lifetime. We had the one that slid to the side and fell in. We had the brick, the coquina rock that replaced looked a lot better than that ugly fence. And then the slanting ones that were proposed with steps going down into the water. Is there any hint at which one you're going to use, and is it going to be multiple seawalls? Secondly, the LED lighting. You're planning on LED lighting on the Sweetheart Trail, are we at any time planning on LED lighting throughout the city? Okay. Also, are we ever going to get those multiple poles out of our front yards? Beachside added new telephone poles, and now some of us have 3, 4, and 5 telephone poles in front of our houses. Will we ever get rid of the ones from 20 years ago or 30 years ago? The Peabody roof, this is my 3rd or 4th Peabody roof in the last 30 years. Can we find some way, because they always say there's not enough money, so we end up, instead of having a 20 or 30-year roof, we have a 10-year roof, and we keep replacing it every 10 years. Is there something we can do to permanently make it a normal roof? Because I think we have 27 roofs on the Peabody, which is ridiculous. And lastly, the prisoners. I know it's a great deal, but at one time we had one on the beach side and one on the mainland. We haven't seen them on the beach side, and they do a tremendous amount of work. I'm wondering if we could use CRA funds, which we did in the past, to get the workforce, and we do need it, on the beach side. Thank you.
Okay. Our next speaker is Ann Ruby, and on deck is Sandy Murphy.
Ann Ruby, I want to speak on item 80137 Park Avenue. To Rob Gilliland's point, that the money, here right, the money that is coming in from the headquarters can't be spent except in the Midtown CRA. But if you extend the CRA another 30 years, if the CRA is allowed to sunset in 2036 when it's supposed to, then those funds that come in from the headquarters will be available in Midtown because they'll be in the general fund. So I think you need to make a full explanation of that. The other thing is I did not really see the full explanation of that section where the city isn't obligated to pay. And I've read that lease pretty thoroughly. I think I saw something in section 32, but I'm wondering if that has changed or been updated because that's all that's posted. What I see is posted on the, do you want to speak to that?
It's in section 32.
It's in section 32, but when was that last changed or updated?
That provision has not been changed.
So the one that is on the website is the same as the one that's in the lease we're
The line you're
signing?
referring to has not been changed.
Has not been changed?
Yes.
Which line?
You don't have to do all
Okay,
that.
thank you.
Yeah, this is-
Our final speaker on the consent agenda is Sandy Murphy.
Good evening, Sandy Murphy, 136 Park Avenue. I had originally signed up because I did want to clarify Commissioner Gilliland's statements again. This is the CRA money can become money that belongs to this whole city once the original period of that CRA expires. So until 2036 it may be restricted, but unless and until we get an expansion or an extension from the county, future tax revenues could go anywhere in this city, and in particular to communities that need it more. I'd also like to reiterate my idea that if we are so confident that this project will be bringing up the values in that area and the taxes, why wouldn't we commit to tagging the city's contribution just to those increases from today going forward rather than making a flat amount guaranteed? Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, just to clear up the one item about the TIF funds and what happens when they go away, if it sunsets, clearly the only amount that'd be available to the city would be the city tax portion. It would not include the county tax and the other district taxes that'd be available in the event that those we sunset the CRA.
The issues we have in Midtown, we have today, not in 2036. Why Ann and Sandy thinks it's okay to wait till 2036 to address them, I don't. I think we need to start working on, continue working on those issues now.
Okay.
Our final speaker on the consent agenda is Doyle Lewis. He's speaking on item 8I and 8E. Mr. Lewis, are you ready? Okay.
I want to add one, I forgot to put 8O on there.
Okay.
On 8O, with the development of the Riverside Park and stuff, I want to make sure more bathrooms are there for these people that are going to be using them. Mr. Brown actually said it need to have safety for that, and I wanted to make sure we kind of follow what they do in Ormond. They have electronic locks that open up about 6:30 and close down about 8 or 9. That actually helps with a lot of maintenance issues where they lock automatically. That's the first one. The second one is the seawall. That really needs to be looked at really well because of the last flooding along Beach Street, especially around Main Street and things where the buildings were. I'm sure they're going to build it up a whole lot more and things, but it's going to have to be a strong seawall with the engineering and stuff, especially with the hurricanes that we've been getting and the flooding we've been getting. As far as the cheap labor from the correctionals, I just want to have a couple comments about that since I've been homeless for 8 or 9 years, almost 10 probably. I want to make sure I'm not on the workforce. I'm trying everything I can to make sure I don't break into any trespassing things. I want to make sure I'm not on that workforce. My name is Dora Lewis. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Thank you.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, we'll take a motion from Commissioner Gilliland, a second from Commissioner Henry.
Excuse me.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Would you like me to answer Ms. Ruby's question? I'll be glad to answer that if you'd like. There is a provision in the contract which allows essentially a non-funding, which I think was what she was
No,
referring to.
you can send it to her but via email or something. We have a motion on the floor in a second.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, moving on to it's item 8C. It was pulled from the consent agenda for discussion. And for the record, Commissioner Gilliland has filled out a Form 8B memorandum of voting conflict
Thank you.
because he is an employee of Florida Healthcare Plan.
Correct. Staff is recommending that a renewal at I think it's 1% reduction for health insurance from FHCP. I've been on the commission, I think, this is my 14th year. City's been buying health insurance from FHCP for over 30 years. So it predates me by quite a bit, but that is my conflict, and I will not be voting on this item.
Okay.
So I'm going to read it into the record. This is a resolution accepting various proposals to provide city employee benefits insurance coverage effective May 1st, 2019, accepting the proposal from Florida Healthcare Plans, Inc. to provide medical insurance, including pharmacy coverage, to city employees, retirees, and their dependents, accepting the proposal from Florida Combined Life to provide dental coverage for employees, retirees, and their dependents, accepting the proposal of Florida Combined Life to provide life, accidental death, and dismemberment, and disability insurance for employees, authorizing the city to pay a portion of the premiums for employees, couples, and families, and to collect the balance of premiums for payment to the appropriate insurer and a health care savings account where applicable, authorizing the city manager, city clerk, and the chief financial officer to execute any documents necessary to implement the resolution and providing an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Reed. What's the second from Commissioner Traeger? All right, do we have any other questions or comments on this item? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those in opposition, same sign. This motion carries 6-0.
Moving on now to item number 9 is our public hearings. Item number 9A is the Development and Administrative Services Planning Division, O'Connor Capital, rezoning of Plan Development General, PDG. This is an ordinance on second reading, quasi-judicial hearing. An ordinance amending the zoning map of the Land Development Code to rezone 214.6 plus or minus acres of property located on the northeast corner of I-95 and LPJ Boulevard from Volusia County zoning to PDG Plan Development General District, authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute the O'Connor Capital Plan District Agreement with Consolidated Tomoka Land Company and O'Connor Capital Partners, LLC, to allow for the development of a mixed-use project that will include commercial, residential, and industrial uses, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Gilliland and a second from Commissioner Henry. Do we have any speakers?
I do have Mr. Rob Merrill here if you have any questions on behalf of the applicant.
And no other speakers? Okay.
No other speakers.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those who are opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to item number 9B, it's the Development and Administrative Services Bevel Commercial Bevel 711 Proportionate Fair Share Agreement Approval. This is a resolution public hearing. A resolution approving the Bevel Commercial Bevel 711 Proportionate Fair Share Agreement with Bevel Investors LLC in the County of Volusia, providing for the proportionate fair share contribution by Bevel Investors LLC, relating to transportation facility concurrency for the Bevel Commercial Bevel 711 project located at 1401 Bevel Road, authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute the agreement and providing an effective date.
So moved.
Take a motion from Commissioner Traeger and a second from Commissioner Gilliland.
I have no speakers for this item.
All right, all those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those who are opposed, same sign. This motion carries 7-0 as well.
Okay. Moving on to item number 9C, it's a Public Works Technical Services Division, Mosaic Phase 1B1 Subdivision Preliminary and Final Plat Approval. This is a resolution quasi-judicial hearing. A resolution approving the preliminary and final plat for Mosaic Phase 1B1 to subdivide 41 plus or minus acres to accommodate 65 proposed single-family lots located at the current termination of Mosaic Boulevard within the 765 plus or minus acre Bayberry Cove plan development, authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute the contract for plat recording, authorizing the city manager to sign the final plat and to permit recordation thereupon meeting certain conditions precedent, approving the contract for plat recording for the subdivision and providing an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Traeger and a second from Commissioner Gilliland.
I have Mr. Frank O'Keefe here from Zeb Cohen.
All right. Do you have any questions, or do you want to speak? Okay.
And then I do have Dick Smith here from ICI Homes. Okay.
Okay. All right. If there are no questions, we have a motion and a second. All those who are in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those who are opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Moving on to item number 10, it is our administrative items. Item number 10A is the Finance Department Amendment to Ordinance 16-110. This is an ordinance on first reading. An ordinance amending Ordinance number 16-110, which authorized the borrowing of funds from the State Revolving Fund Loan Program to finance construction of various city utility projects by increasing the total amount authorized from $50 million to $62,500,000, authorizing the future reallocations of the SFR loan amounts to be approved by resolution, subject to conditions, authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute any amendments to the loan documents needed to give effect to this ordinance, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Gilliland and a second from Commissioner Reed. Do we have any questions or comments from the commission? No speakers. All those who are in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those who are opposed, same sign. This motion carries 7-0.
And the public hearing for this item will be April 3rd, 2019. Okay, moving on to item number 10B, it's the Development and Administrative Services Facility Use Agreement for Crab and Seafood Festival. It's a resolution approving a facility use agreement with Divine Designs Event Planning and Decor LLC, authorizing a crab and seafood festival on Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune Boulevard between Dr. Martin Luther King Boulevard and Charles Street on May 18, 2019 from 11 a.m. to no later than 11 p.m., providing for the closing of portions of Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune Boulevard on the date of this event, agreeing to co-sponsor the event, establishing terms and conditions, authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute the agreement, waiving permit fees for Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune Boulevard property owners adjoining the license area who hold temporary promotional activities during the event, subject to conditions, authorizing the city manager to enter into agreement on the city's behalf with an authorized nonprofit organization for provision of for provision of alcoholic beverage sales for the event, including revenue sharing provisions and providing an effective date.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Reed and a second from Commissioner Henry. Do we have any?
I have no speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, all those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Moving on to item number 10C, it's the City Clerk's Office Police and Fire Pension Fund Board Appointment Resolution. A resolution appointing one member of the Board of Trustees of the Police and Fire Pension Fund for a term expiring December 31st, 2021, pursuant to City Charter Subpart D, Section 3.1, and providing an effective date.
Second.
We'll take a motion from Commissioner Delgado and a second from Commissioner Traeger.
And the fifth trustee that they are wanting to, that they have appointed is Greg Gerdak to serve for the remaining term of Terrence Henry.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any other comments, questions? All right, all those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Moving on to item number 10D, it's the City Manager's Office Midtown Redevelopment Board Appointments Resolution. A resolution appointing 3 members to serve on the Midtown Redevelopment Board for a term expiring December 31st, 2021, and providing an effective date. Ms. Betty Goodman to report.
Good evening. This agenda item is to appoint 3 members to the Midtown Redevelopment Board. There are 2 vacancies on the board. Additionally, the membership term of Steve Miller has expired. We've received 3 qualifying applicants, Tangela Brown, Sharice Dorley, and Tarika Charles. And all 3 of these applicants are resident.
I move that all 3 of these applicants be accepted to the Midtown Board.
Second.
We'll take a motion from Commissioner Reed, and we'll take a second from Commissioner Delgado. Do we have any questions or comments from the commission?
And I have no speakers.
No speakers.
I'd just like to say it's nice to see some young people getting on the board because we've got to start passing the torch, and we need that conversation at the table. So thank you, ladies.
Is Miss Brown here? I don't think I knew her. Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay. All right. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Let it be noted, we already voted? Okay.
No, we haven't.
I was about to say, y'all looking at me. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Looking at me like I was. All right. Did we didn't
Commissioner
pull
comments.
another item? Okay.
Can we start with
Commission
that?
comments, we'll commence with Commissioner Henry.
So Jimmy Ann is 50% completed, so we're ahead of schedule. Completion date was April 12th, and we are almost there now. Looks really good so far. If you ride over there, you'll be stuck in a lot of traffic, but it's well worth it, trust me. Want to thank Ms. Goodman for that beautiful report that she's been giving every week, letting us know what projects have been completed and where we are on certain items that we have requested. That has been invaluable. That is wonderful. Thank you so much. And to Keith Willis, thank you for the report for the facilities cost analysis. It was a very good report, very in-depth. I asked for a couple additional things that I want to see as far as vendor fees from other municipalities. I would like very much to begin the conversation with the commission with regards to how much our facilities are for vendors when our nonprofits use our facilities. Right now, to me, it's a little bit high for nonprofits to use the facilities and have vendors out there. And a lot of times, I believe that nonprofits, that's how they pay for the event. So they don't always have the actual physical funds to pay for the events. but they do allow vendors to come in, and so I want to see those. I want us to have a conversation about how we can make it affordable for them to allow vendors to come in and use the facilities. And also, soccer is coming to the city of Daytona Beach, and it's coming back. I think it's been almost 15 years since we've had soccer. And although I'm a parent who doesn't mind the head banging and the physicality of football and tackle football, every parent doesn't want that, and every parent does not desire that. So I did want to see different things where parents had some more choices over in that area. And so soccer is coming, so please go and sign your children up for soccer. So now you have access to soccer, you have access to baseball, and you have access to T-ball, which is for the younger children ages
4, 5, and 6.
4, 5, and 6. So that's available over in the area. Also, I think that's going to do it for my comments for tonight, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Reed?
I hate to admit this, but I'm not as prepared as I'd like to be, because some of my questions were answered and I can't find the answers. But I'll start by saying this. I got Betty's report. It said complete. I'm like, what did I do with it? First of all, with the balance of my Bike Week funds, I returned my check yesterday from the Historical Music Museum because the OCs did not need it. I'd like to take that check and put it together with what I had left, I think it was $140, and give that to Campbell Middle School, please. So that's a matter of record. We have 3 new people that got on the redevelopment board tonight, but having a conversation with the chairperson during our break, I understand that there's some language that they don't understand. And I know we do a little board training, but they didn't know what a TIF was. I think we need to also understand what the CRA is. And then he also brought something to my attention that I'd like to address that kind of concerns me. And that is the language, the definition of what the Midtown Redevelopment Board's goals and objectives have changed, and they weren't informed that they changed. So I'm told that they changed in 2017. They had more responsibilities initially, and I don't know why we have limited what they do now, but I'd like to have a discussion regarding that and to revisit that.
Could you,
Did he give you a copy?
of that? He didn't give one to everyone.
Okay, I'll give it to
Could you make
the-
sure that that the other commissioners get this?
All right, I'll give this to the clerk. Would you pass it down, please? And would you make sure that everybody gets a copy of that?
Yeah.
All right, so we can all see that change. I'm going to... Okay, so in the things that were completed that I wanted to discuss, yes, thank you, Mr. Willis, for the comparison of the rates of our surrounding cities. Okay, now that we have this comparison, I, like Commissioner Henry, and I think Commissioner May have addressed this as well, would like to sit down and for us to look at this and to address the difference in cost that we have for our citizens, where we build these, I'm going to say, white elephants in our community, and yet they can't afford it. They're going to other neighboring cities. So as I've stated in the past, that, I'm sorry? Oh, I thought you said something. Maybe somebody in the audience said something. In the past, I've stated that I would rather have a little bit of money than to have no money, because it's got to be paid for regardless. So let's look at what other cities are doing. Let's look at what we're doing, and let's have a in-depth conversation regarding this. And I'd like to go back to vendor fees. I'm talking about vendor fees regardless. I don't care if you're a 501c3 or you're someone else. To me, when I rent a house, that's my house. As long as I take care of it and do what I'm supposed to do, that's fine. But you can't charge me if I put something else in the house, because that's mine too. So when someone rents our facilities and they've done everything we've asked them to do, I don't know why we go behind, and you say we made this decision, well, we need to revisit it. We go behind them and charge them for the people they're charging to come to their event. To me, those vendors are helping them to offset the cost that we're charging. So I think we need to look at that and say, is that really fair? is that really a just decision on our part? You know, are we that desperate when people are trying to help us by bringing programs to our city? Because God knows we can have some more stuff in our city that we're charging them for their vendors as well. I mean, I've had events. Y'all done charged me. I had to charge vendors $100 so I could kind of break even on what I was being charged. So we don't get anything for free either. So that's why I want to address this. And Mr. Willis had answered that question. That's something I can't find. I wanted to be able to address it. It says on here that was complete. That I asked.
It's a sheet by itself.
Yeah, and I can't find the sheet by itself. They answered so many of my questions and gave me so much paper. I feel like the news journal over here. I don't think we're going to find it. You think we're going to find it? Oh, thank you. Is that it?
Y'all getting old.
That's about facilities. All right, so,
Okay, that's it. Vendor fees? That's
Yes.
what you were asking? Here it is right here. 1 to 5 vendors is $520. It goes right here.
ooh, why is there an extra charge for vendors? This is a set fee as stipulated in resolution number 16296, section 3, with a little c. The vending services surcharge is imposed when the permitted activity involves one or more itinerant merchants selling or offering goods or services for sale. The fee does not apply to the provision of samples, promotions, or giveaways without the sale of goods or services, sales consisting solely of alcoholic beverages sales, or sales consisting solely of live performance merchandising. Again, why are we charging for vendors? Maybe that's a discussion we need to have. And if we're going to charge for vendors, maybe this fee is too high. 1 to 5 vendors is a $520 fee? Good goobity goo, in the words of Goma
At least
Powell.
$100.
Yeah.
And
You
a
gotta
lot of
charge
times
them
when we come
$100.
to the events, you know, the vendors are not going to even make $100.
Exactly.
They're not gonna
Exactly.
make it. Yeah.
So we gotta go there, you all. And I
Okay.
had some other things answered. I won't address all of them tonight, but I was trying to get myself together. I will be together at the next meeting.
I know you will.
Commissioner Reed, when
But I would.
when
sorry.
did you want to have those conversations? I'd like to have those conversations.
Mhm.
When would you like to have them?
We got so many stuff scheduled
Just
with all
add it
these
on.
strategic
Just
plannings,
go
but
over.
maybe it could be a part of one of the strategic
Yeah.
plannings.
Okay.
It's strategic,
All right.
addressing an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe we can have it
As a workshop.
right as a part of our, at this time, once we look at it,
Mm-hmm.
and then you just take 15 or 20
Okay,
minutes and
a
talk
part of
about
this
it.
time.
Yeah,
All
this
right.
is, we determine what we want to talk about.
So everybody got a copy of that, am I correct? Can we say let's take some time from the next commission meeting so we can review it?
Sure.
And if you didn't, let's make sure that they all get a copy of the vendor's fee thing from Mr. Willis. Do you have that, Madam Clerk? I can send you mine.
It was in everybody's box, I believe.
I
Uh-huh,
believe
yeah.
you gave it to everyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Then there's one other thing I'd like to share. I don't know the date because I didn't look it up, but I want you all to know that 40 years ago in this month, I was Miss Daytona Beach Community College.
All right.
Yes.
Queen.
Yes, I'm a queen, and I represented our college in the Miss Florida pageant. I think I'm one of the first African American females to compete in the Miss Florida pageant.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it on Facebook. That concludes my comments, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. Madam Traeger.
Okay, this Saturday there will be an event, and I would like Chief Capri please to inform us about it.
Oh, yeah, it's a great event.
Daytona 100 event Saturday, 10:30 to about 2:30. Depending if everybody's there, we'll keep it going. We're gonna have a DJ, bounce houses, food. Start off with a bike ride, about a 1.5 2-mile bike ride, and then big community event. Plenty of food, plenty of music, bounce houses, drone units out there, static displays. So come on out and have a good time. It's gonna
What's
be
the
fun.
name of the event? Is it sponsored by the police
Daytona
department?
100. Yep. Daytona 100 we call it.
Oh, you call it Daytona 100.
Daytona 100.
And you call it that because?
That's just the name that they. It's kind
It's
of
a
like
bicycle
like
ride
a
or
hundred.
race?
bicycle ride. It's not 100 miles.
I'm gonna put some air in my tires.
It's not 100 miles. It's about a 1.5 miles. But we usually have good turnout, 50 to 100 kids, barbecue, bounce house, families come out. And this year we're doing it at Midtown. The last 2 years we did it at Dickerson Center. So we're trying to rotate it around. So it'll be a great event. Come on out. We'd love to see you out there.
Is this on the city's website?
I believe it is, yes. It's been promoted for the past couple months. It's been out.
Oh, very good.
We have
Was
several
it
people
promoted?
signed up already. We usually get a good crowd the day of, but we have plenty of stuff. We anticipating for 100-plus people, so
Very
we'll make
good.
it work. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Delgado?
Again, I appreciate getting all the updates from the staff on our weekly agenda, so thank you very much, Ms. Clinton. Thank you. And I was appreciative of finally getting the data we requested the last couple of meetings. I had a lot of information in my packet. Couple things. We had talked about the living wage concept, and we got our report. I was impressed by how little it would cost to make that
So was
initial
I.
movement. It was, I think, about $150,000. So I think that that would be a very strong commitment and a very strong statement if our city could go to that as a minimum threshold. Obviously, there's issues of what compression, which is the idea that someone who's making a little bit more than that $15 wouldn't receive a benefit, where someone who is 10 cents below would make an increase. Someone who's at $12 would make a huge proportional increase. So I think the recommendation was, if we were interested in doing that, to bring in some experts to talk about a way of offsetting that compression and make it equitable for everyone who's been there, because you don't want to not reward someone who's been there for 15, 20 years and has reached that as kind of the top of their pay cycle. So I think that's something that we should look into. Again, I was impressed by how little it was going to cost us, and I think it's a very powerful statement and a movement in the right direction. So, I hope we can look into that. I would like to see that next step going of, now that we have that initial data and it's not daunting to me, the price. I'd like to see what the proposal is for offsetting that compression, what the cost would be, and maybe a multi-year plan to phase in that change. So I would like to see that. I don't know what the other members of the commission think.
Let me add to that, if you would.
Sure.
Can we need to get a cost of what that analysis or person was, unless you already know? The expert that you recommend? Yeah, okay. Because I thought that was very impressive, that it said a lot about, we were further ahead than I anticipated. I didn't think that it would be that price.
No, me neither. It was.
So,
Mr. Mayor, as part of that, we have to include our licensed credentials, first responders, to not, because what's going to happen is people with high school education is going to be right behind starting firefighters and police officers. And that is going to be a huge, huge problem for us. And when I get to my comments, I'll give you my pitch on what I think we should do on the wage front. But that needs to be something. The compression part, I think, is going to be $1 million. By the time you actually, to fix that, the total price tag. But at that point, we once again are going to have a problem that, with where the different job descriptions compare with one another, where we have folks that have, not an unskilled job, but a lesser skilled job in comparison to someone who's spent 2 years going through fire school. So, this is going to be a very complex thing to deal with, and it's going to be very expensive. But, I do think it's worth doing. The study is always a good idea. We don't know what we don't know today.
okay.
Does your $1 million in liability, right, for retirement and all that? You think $1 million is?
There's a lot of pieces that add up to that, because the pension contribution will go up as the first responder pay goes.
And I would agree. I support the first responders as much as anyone. I think we don't pay our firefighters enough. I think we need to always be mindful of what we're paying those people, because they're doing a great job for us, firefighters, police, all of them. And I agree. We don't want them to suffer in comparison to others, but they're not really suffering. They just wouldn't be getting the same proportional increase. But I think we need to look into that and make sure that we're taking care of all of our employees. If $1 million is what it costs, I'm not opposed to doing that if that's what it's going to take to put everyone in a place where we can say that our city pays a fair living wage to all its employees and set an example for what other cities need to do. But obviously that'll be something that we have to vote on as a commission. But yeah, I really would like to see those numbers, because I thought it was going to be more like $1 million to get to where they're saying it's $150,000. So I would just like to, because my gut reactions are totally wrong. So I just want to see the real numbers. So I agree with that.
Okay.
What does the study cost? Like tens of thousands?
No, I don't know exactly what it costs. It depends on how much in depth we have to get into it, but we'll have to get somebody to give us some prices.
Okay.
But if it's a consensus you want us to look into it, then we can go out and get some ideas what the cost is and bring a proposal back to you.
Yeah, I think we definitely want to be able to make an informed decision across the board as to what this would cost. Yeah, we need the whole picture because, you know, I looked at some of the data and our firefighters, first of all, the reality is that if you are a policeman in Daytona Beach, no policeman in Volusia County should make more money than you for the same experience. And the same is true with a firefighter.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I was waiting, when I said wait till my turn, that's...
But the reason being, and it's not that they're, you know, well, certainly they're well trained, but they work harder than any other person in their capacity across the county, and it's not even a close comparison when you look at the number of calls and the volume of work that they have to do. So, you know, they should be the best paid. And so, you know, those are things that we need to just try to establish a goal. We may not be able to get to these places overnight, but just like we plan a goal over a course of time, you know, that's where we need to be headed.
And because of the collective bargaining, I guess we need to also be mindful of the impact that has and kind of understand how that's going to go. That'll be a complexity too, but I mean, just as long as we have the data, that'd be great. Speaking of data, we also got, or at least we got the estimate for, and I was unsure exactly whether it was construction or preparation to then construct something that we tentatively called a safe zone out on West ISB. And the bill was about $105,000. Again, I thought it might be more than that. There were some items on there that I thought we could probably get some in-kind donations for. I thought that Faith had said that there's a company, DeLand Kingspan, that had offered, I guess they fabricate metal buildings. They had offered contributions of in-kind. I think they set up to $100,000 worth of donations. And I don't know if some of the companies that do paving or grading that are already working with us on the First Step Shelter might be able to give us an in-kind donation for the grading of some of that stuff. But you know, to do what is roughly 40,000 square feet is roughly an acre, right? I Googled that earlier, so it's not that I actually know that. I just made pause to make it think I was accessing my brain. But that to me doesn't seem like a bad investment of our money to have an acre available out near the First Step Shelter that we could use for overflow or for growth or expansion of our program. And right now, I guess it's being used for storage of materials anyway. So I thought that wasn't a bad value, and I thought we could probably get some in-kind contributions and lower that even more. So I thought that was something we might want to talk about at our next time we're kind of discussing that, see if there's any desire to build a kind of a staging ground out there, maybe something to assist with First Step Shelter as an overflow area, and also something that we can maybe get up and running sooner and use for other purposes if we no longer need it once First Step Shelter is up and running. But I think that the jail estimates that they'll send, I think, about 60 people a month to First Step Shelter, and I think Chief Capri probably has a pretty good idea that the police department will be bringing a lot of people there as well. So I think we'll very quickly fill up the beds, and I think we'll very quickly be needing that extra space. So to me, that $100,000 didn't seem like a bad investment. I know we've already committed a lot of money to it, but it's something I'd like us to talk about and see what anyone else thinks, because I think we need that extra space. And then lastly, a couple of years back, the city and the county, start with the county and then the city, took steps to decriminalize marijuana. And the way we amended our city code was intended, I think, by y'all that did it at the time to make it not a criminal offense, but because it leaves in the possibility of an arrest, it remains a criminal offense. Mm-hmm. And with the changes in the law and the changes in the enforcement of the medical marijuana regulations that were recently passed, I think it would be time to revisit that. And I've talked to the city attorney. It's a relatively small change to our code, literally I think just deleting a few words. But that would make it so that the police, that while they have the option to make an arrest under the state laws for misdemeanor drug possession, under our city ordinance, arrest would not be an option and merely be a $500 fine. And that would bring it kind of in line with what I thought the goal of the commission had been at the time they
That
enacted.
was the goal, but the then chief and others kind of got it watered down. At least that's the way I would describe it. It was watered down to where it is now. So
Well, I just thought that it might be time for us to make that final change. I know in the last couple of years we've tried to clean up some of our ordinances. I know we've
good job.
and I know that there's a lot of attention on it at the state and national level. So I thought if that was still the intent of the commission, to give police officers that alternative under our city ordinances to issue a $500 fine or up to a $500 fine, I thought we could make that change. So that's all I have. I don't know how anyone else feels about that, but that's all I wanted to put in front of you tonight.
Well, I felt like you then, and I still feel that way, so I would be happy to have a discussion and see if you all want to move in that direction. I recall some others not feeling quite that way.
The reason we left it in there was if the person is belligerent and rude to the police officer had the option to arrest.
Okay.
So basically, at this point, the kid could, or a lot of this was for kids,
Yeah.
curse out the police officer, and doesn't matter. He's still just going to get a fine. So
They would still
Yeah,
be
but
subject to a
you
misdemeanor.
can still get another. You can't just curse out the police officer when you're being stopped.
Well, it would still be a misdemeanor under state law. They could still say, I'm going to arrest you under state law and charge you with a misdemeanor. It would just mean that if they wanted to, they could say, I'm not going to arrest you, I'm going to give you a citation that's a $500 fine.
What did the chief say when you talked to him about it?
I didn't talk to the chief about it.
Oh. Well, I think we need to hear from the chief on this one.
Well, we heard that's what happened the last time. And when the chief, come on, you can tell us. Y'all want to tell us now? You want to tell us now? Because you'll be just like your cousin Chitwood.
I'm better looking.
No, that's not an offense.
I got you, though. Yeah, I think discretion's a good thing.
Yeah.
I think by officers having discretion, it shows common sense. I mean, police, you gotta have common sense out here. Everything's not black and white or green. You gotta have that discretion because each incident is different than the next. Sometimes you give somebody a break, you give them a ticket, they don't have a criminal record, they go on to do great things, and their life, it could be a life-changing experience. So I have no problem with that at all whatsoever, if we can give...
Leaving it the way that it is.
No. I have no
yeah.
problem if it's...
But we're saying eliminate the discretion, which I think that the discretion should be
No,
eliminated.
you gotta have that discretion,
Well,
I
they would
think.
still have the discretion under state law to
That's
make
still
their-
in there. You could still, it gives the officer an option to the point where, I'm going to give somebody a civil citation, like a ticket, a citation, instead of taking them to jail. So that officer still has that discretion to either arrest or not arrest or give them a ticket. It still leaves that in there the way I read it, right?
Yeah,
like
well,
the discretion to take out.
but you could still arrest under
I
the
don't
state-
think you can.
Yeah, you could still arrest under the state law.
Yeah, you can. I don't think you can take that away from the officer to
No,
arrest.
you could never
Yeah,
take away
You could
the-
never
it's
take it away.
always gonna be
It just gives the officer another option where they can say, you know what, I'm going to give them a ticket instead of arresting them.
Okay.
And I
So
think
wait,
for...
I'm a little confused.
Right now, the police can arrest under certain ordinances.
Yeah,
Certain
or give 'em a
ordinances are
notice to appear in
quasi-criminal.
court.
And you can arrest you, but there's a fine of $500 as well. There's also a state ordinance that says, well, I'm probably not supposed to do this, right?
No, you're doing fine. I'll
Okay.
correct you if you're wrong.
But there's also a state ordinance that says it's legal to possess less than 20 grams
Right.
of cannabis. No matter what Daytona does, we can't make that legal.
Yeah.
So if I had 20 grams of cannabis here, Chief Capri could arrest me for a misdemeanor, or he could say, I'm not arresting you for that, I'm going to give you a citation under Daytona City Ordinance. It's a $500 fine. Right now, he also has the option of arresting me for violating the ordinance. Just like they can arrest panhandlers for violating the ordinance, they can arrest other people. Because they can arrest me, it's still, in my opinion as a lawyer, a criminal offense. If we say they cannot arrest me for that, all they can do is fine me $500, then that's clearly a non-criminal ordinance. But just because we do that doesn't mean that he can't say, but I'm going to arrest you for a misdemeanor violation of state law.
You know what it reminds me of, Mr. Mayor? Spring break, when we had some kids here, he drinks a beer. Or you can arrest them or for disorderly intoxication, but he has the option of paying a $50 fine. It's not on his record. It's a civil violation, and they move on. It's kind of similar to that, where you make a mistake, it doesn't haunt you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
But on the same token, you don't give away that discretion to arrest when there's some situations when you have to. That's the way I looked at it. I looked at it briefly. I didn't really get in depth, but so I don't have any problem with it as far as, to be honest, we're too busy here with the real stuff. So I mean,
Sounds like you're one up on your cousin then.
Yeah. It's gonna cost him some money on the defense attorney part, but,
That's true. It's okay.
benefits, you know, not only the police department, but the city, but also
Use your money.
gives judgment ability of the police department and the officer to decide if it's a minor thing, it's just, it's not something that's egregious and other things aren't connected with it, then they have the ability just to issue a ticket. And
yeah, we're not talking like 20 grams individually packaged with scales and all the other stuff. That would be more of an intent to sell. I'm talking about the guy that has a joint, a kid, or 18, man, I've never been in trouble before. I got to give him a civil citation. He's got no criminal, you look at everything, the big picture. Is it going to jam this guy up for the rest of his life, where he ain't going to be able to get into college? Or,
You don't want to do that.
No, so we have that discretion. So, this guy's, it's to help people. It gives us discretion from that point.
So, explain to me what Aaron is proposing again.
So I would propose that we ask the city attorney to come back with a proposed amendment to our ordinance that says if you're caught with marijuana less than a certain amount, or I think it's phrased cannabis, right?
Cannabis under 20 grams.
Under 20 grams.
20 grams.
So less than an ounce, then the police officer can issue you a citation, and the only punishment is a fine of up to $500, which we would get, right? The city would get the money?
Yeah.
I believe it goes to the court system, and a portion of
City
that
gets the
goes
money.
back to the city, yes.
Or if they don't want to do that, for whatever reason, they can arrest you under violation of Florida Statute 893, which is a state criminal statute that's a misdemeanor, the first degree, to possess less than 20
I'm not
grams.
condoning the use of drugs by any means, but I live in the real world, and if you look around the country, what's going on, it's coming. So why not just cut to the chase and get ahead of it, and let's just give us some
agree.
discretion. So, but I'm not condoning drug use. I want to.
Neither am I.
Okay.
Not
I agree.
condoning it either.
I agree with Aaron, and I think belligerence sometimes can be subjective to what a certain person may feel, a certain officer may feel belligerent, and I kind of feel like certain people will suffer more under the guise of the first where we are now currently. It's under I get to decide whether or not you're gonna whether or not you're gonna go to jail, and I'm concerned, honestly, that it may affect certain people more than it affects others. And so I'm more inclined to go with Aaron, and that's just me and my personal.
Well, I can tell you, we still have that right now to either arrest or give a notice to appear. What this does, it just doesn't give them a criminal charge. It's a civil violation. So I can arrest somebody right now or give them a notice to appear in court for under 20. This is just a third option, right? If I'm mistaken, where you just say, here's a ticket. It's like a parking ticket. If I
And
can,
it's messy.
similar.
It's messy if our ordinance has the option to arrest. It becomes messy as to whether it's interpreted as a criminal ordinance or a civil ordinance. By removing that, it makes it a lot cleaner, I think, from a enforcement perspective, because they wouldn't have a right to a jury trial. They wouldn't have the right to counsel being appointed if you issue all the problems we're running into with the panhandling stuff in court. And those ordinances,
Well, we
wouldn't have any of
fixed
those
that.
issues.
That was. There's really no. We haven't got charged anything. The
Yeah, but I'm
city,
saying, like,
because we worked that out.
It
but
makes it very clean if you remove that reference.
it's just common sense out here. You don't have time to be tied up. Somebody has.
I just make sure I'm clear. So the kid on the playground with the joint.
Well, if he's a juvenile, it's different. We have to,
If we get him, if we remove that language,
Yeah.
then there's the fine up to $500. But the officer still has the right to arrest
Yeah, absolutely.
under that state statute.
Yeah.
So
They still do that
so
now.
then this is kind
It's
of
just a
moving
third option. You have that. You can arrest, make a physical arrest. You can give a notice to appear right now, but we have no option to give a citation.
The part that makes me most comfortable about this is when we made this change a couple of years back, we didn't know what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now we've got some water under the bridge, and evidently it's not this big issue where the chief would tell us, all the time we're having to, instead of issue a citation, we have to arrest. If that was the case, he would tell us that.
Well, I think from what I'm reading, and I don't know if it's coming out, but they said they're going to start legalizing this, medical marijuana in smokable form.
Right.
So
The governor just signed the.
we got to get. Reality is, you got to. The goal here is not to hurt people.
Right.
It's just to enforce the law equitably, and it gives us another option to try to help people.
No, removing
At the same
that language
token, we don't want
doesn't
people
change
smoking
the
pot, but if they are smoking pot, do we need to take somebody to jail if they had a joint on them? I mean, really, you got to think big picture here.
That's what we want.
So if removing the language doesn't change what the police officer's
No.
options are, then there's no point in leaving that.
It's actually benefiting the suspect or defendant want to come because he's getting a third option.
Yeah.
and it's cleaning up.
And that's hopefully an option that you're encouraging the officers to use.
You know,
You know,
cops don't want to get tired. I'm going to be honest with you with some of this stuff. We're too busy here. This is Daytona Beach. This is not some small town. This stuff's 24/7. We're running and gunning here, and there's certain things that are going to dictate that. For example, if there's different factors. If the guy's selling it, that's different. If it's somebody with a joint that's never been in trouble before, when you check and he made a mistake, that's when you use it.
okay.
That's all.
All right, so
I
I
still would
think
like to make sure that that's being encouraged, because some people do have time on. And so I just would like to make sure that that's what you're encouraging them to do.
Well, we always teach, you know, we enforce the law fairly. We teach that. We do a lot of training. We probably do more training than most agencies, us in the sheriff's department. Constantly training our officers. As something comes out, we get ahead of it. And a lot of it's common sense, and sometimes you can't teach that. In an organization as big as we are, you're going to have some people that maybe just don't get it. We try to identify them and remove them from the program. So it's constant oversight and watch. So we do a good job every day, and we work our butts off. And you know, we just want to do the right thing at the end of the day.
okay.
So thank you.
Thank you. So I think is there anyone that wouldn't be in agreement to bringing this back in the form that they've discussed?
No, I'm in agreement.
No one? We all agree? Okay. You know,
Chair, I'll draft an amendment, and with the manager's help, we'll put that on your next agenda.
all right. Thank you. And thank you for bringing us back to that. I really appreciate that. And for the record, that's coming from a criminal defense attorney. So it's not,
I'll be switching over to land use. Where the real action is.
okay. Any other?
No, I have nothing else.
Okay.
Thank you. Done
Commissioner
nothing.
May?
Okay, so my stuff's easy, super easy. Are you ready? Mr. Chisholm,
Yes,
my
I'm ready.
favorite.
I'm ready.
You ready? Here we go. Number 1, status on Mary McLeod Bethune or 2nd Avenue demo project 408. Mary McLeod Bethune, what's the status on the demo?
I think they appealed, if I remember right, it was appeal on the 408. Was it the 408?
Is 408 the one close to Fifi's?
Yes, sir.
Oh, thank heavens. Okay.
408, they've taken the roof debris out, and it was a caved-in roof. They're
Okay.
preserving the walls, they're gonna come back and rework the building, so most or all of the material from the roof has been removed, so they can move to the next stage to clean the building up.
So I'm really curious, how long was that building in that state until this was done?
I don't know the answer to the question.
Okay, but at least it's moving and...
Yes, ma'am.
and
Absolutely.
But again, if
And
movement
too long.
stops, we're back to demo phase again, or do we have to start over?
Absolutely, it is. And
Okay.
if you looked at the Lyndhurst, you can see how that goes.
Okay, fantastic.
It's gone.
Number 1. All right, thank you, sir, I appreciate
ma'am.
it. And then also, how are the code violations and/or code enforcement going, just in Zone 3? So let's say from, I'm focusing on the Ridgewood to, let's say, Charles Street, right? How is code enforcement going on the buildings on that street?
We'll give you a report. I'd have to go get information from the officers that have got it. We'll give it to you in writing.
Okay, fantastic,
Yes,
thank
ma'am.
you. At the last meeting, thank you, sir, thank you.
Is that it?
Yeah. At the last meeting, residents said that sometimes issues are brought up and then not addressed again. So I would like to address an issue. Minority business enterprise. Can you tell us what that is exactly, Mr. Chisholm?
Well, it's Minority and Women Business Enterprise is it's a group, a class that has the ability to contract with the city for providing the services. Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It is. And my question is, how many of those do we have right now, minorities as well as women? Do we have people applying? Do we have vendors applying?
We
do we have
do.
a vendor list?
We do. We have
Okay.
both.
All righty.
And we had, I'm just going from memory, so it
Please.
may not be exactly
Mhm.
right, but I know the contracts we had over the last year, there was about 800,000. Is somebody there? I think there seemed to be somewhere around 800,000 in contracts that fit that category.
Okay.
But let me get you a written report on
Please.
that. That
And
would
so-
be more accurate than what I
I'm
can say
just
right
curious. Can you tell me exactly, is there any kind of, I hate to use the word preference, but is there any kind of point system that goes along with this if you are a minority-owned business or if you're a woman-owned business?
There is a point system associated with local businesses.
Okay.
But not so much with whether it's a minority owned or a
So if I'm local, I get a little bit higher
local.
up
If
on
you're
the
in
list.
Daytona Beach and
Okay.
you're bidding on a contract, we have, if you're within 10%, you get a 10% credit
Okay.
for if you're within 10% of what the lowest bid is.
Okay.
What that does, it gives them an opportunity to come back and say, okay, if they are a local contractor, then they can resubmit a price that either is better than or lower than or equal to the lowest bid.
Okay. And so if I am, if I'm a minority-owned business woman, let's
Yeah.
say, is there a special list that I can get on where you could, or even local, that you could email me?
Yes, they can with the purchasing department of the city has that.
Okay. So I could actually put this out to some of our small business vendors and say to them, you know what, there are opportunities here with the city.
Right.
That they would be recognized and, okay.
Right.
All right, so we're still moving on. I noticed there was a first step shelter update on here. I guess you'll go over that. I have a curious question for you, the commissioners. Do you have problems with cats in your zones at all? Feral cats? Anyone going through this issue right now?
No.
Everybody is?
He's got cats.
Please, thank you, sir. We went on a ride along and
Yes,
we
we
were
have
confronted with cats, and so I'd like to hear what we've done about it.
I got
Thank
some
you.
updates for you because I'm handling everything here. So.
Thank you, sir.
No. I checked on the traps. We have 16 traps that we own, and the CCFAW, that's the cat people, they have 10 that they let us use. So it's
Okay.
26 traps. What we've been doing is we've been putting them out on Beach Street. They got one recently. They take them to the Humane Society, do what they do, and we've been putting them back out in the safe zone.
Okay.
Because doing some studies on cats, I guess when these cats are neutered, you can't put them. You got to keep the colony together. So we moved the colony out there because it's kind of safe for them out there. I know there's roads and stuff there, but they seem to get along well together out there. And there's people out there that are feeding them.
Okay.
So it's kind of off the beaten path, and they're living good lives, I guess. So we're moving them out of Beach Street, and I'm down one animal control officer. So we're in the process of hiring somebody here. I think
Okay.
it's going to be any day. We already got the interviews done, so that'll definitely pick up the pace too. So
All right.
they're all over it though on that. So
All right, thank you.
Just so you know, I do have I talked to, I can't remember the lady's name with the news.
yeah, I can't think of her. Yeah,
But anyhow,
Cheryl
she's,
Pat.
yes,
Pat.
I think it's Cheryl.
Cheryl.
She's she wants to come in and talk to me, and we're going to schedule a meeting. so
Oh,
we
I
can
would
get-
like to be there. That's fantastic. Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
Sergeant Ransom's all over. He's on top of it. He's been giving me updates every couple of days.
Okay, I haven't gotten any more phone calls, so that's good.
Okay.
All right, also, twice this evening, keywords have been used, which I've noted. A beautiful riverfront and a waterfront as a lifeline, right? I really like those phrases. Keeping that in mind, I have a problem in Zone 3, and I'd like to know if you have the same problem in your zones. Problem goes like this. Commercial vendors, commercial restaurants, apartment complexes have garbage, big receptacles. They are not closing the lids, number one. And also in the downtown core, we have cement enclosures. The police officers have a nice little gated area, and that helps. All of that debris, when left unattended, is going into the rivers. That's what's happening right now to our waterfront as a lifeline and our beautiful waterfront. So I don't like addressing something when it becomes a major crisis for me. If I can get ahead of something, I'm going to
agree.
go for a get ahead.
Well, I did some research on that too.
Thank you.
And we found it's a violation of the Land Development Code. We actually found the ordinance. It's 6.12.D7. And what we're doing is we're going to do an operation. You have to have it covered on three sides, but it's got to be
Okay.
compatible with the building and everything. So we're going to do with our new code people here. We got a new guy coming on, new lady. I should say guy. Call everybody guys, but we're going to do that for a couple weeks and go out there and identify the businesses that have, especially commercial properties where it's not fenced off. For
Do you have an
certain
idea
reasons.
what the cost will be, or will they have a choice in terms of cost, so it's not crazy?
Whatever they got to pay, they got to pay. That's on them. I don't know what the cost is. If they got
And
to
then-
be compliant with the land development.
How does
code.
this work if they break compliance?
We'll go do a code violation on them. It goes through the process, code board and everything.
Is there a
Fines.
fee attached to it?
There can be fines. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So,
All
but
right.
we're gonna just make sure because it does look pretty bad when you have it open. Like I mean, especially with trash spewing and
Right.
it just creates a bad, unsafe, unhealthy atmosphere.
Well,
So we want to clean.
Let me ask you, what area was this in? Because I had a
This-
conversation with the manager recently.
Okay,
about
this
the
is
same
actually right along Zone 3, so whether it is going to be,
Beachside.
pardon me, sir?
Beachside.
Beachside as well as mainland side, because I had a facility
Yep.
that, and we were involved in that, not closing it. We went on a drive and we saw this again. So it might not seem like a lot, but it's also
Well,
getting into the drains,
Well,
and that's a problem.
it is major because it's also an aesthetic problem.
Yes.
And this is something you and I talked about recently.
Mhm.
So I've seen the problem. And it's been
Okay,
reported to me
fantastic.
also.
So,
Just so you know, we are attacking this on several ways. I mean, we got code doing one thing, but we also have an inspector that's going to go and inspect all the all the restaurants and all of the apartment complexes in the
Please.
city. They'll go to all of them in the city, not
Mhm.
just over there.
Mhm.
And we will then coordinate that with code, and if they haven't identified the same properties, they'll be made aware of it so we can follow up with code.
Thank you so
I'll keep
much.
you posted on it. We're gonna work this.
I
Thank
appreciate
you.
that. Thank you. And I think that one more thing. I was asked to ask two questions, please. City Island Rec Center. We were doing a study on that. Where is the study right now?
I don't think we've got. I don't see anybody here. We don't have it on board yet. I don't think, do we?
RFPs are out to have it studied, to give you an analysis of what it will cost to fix it and just the state of the building. So presently, we're getting consultant to evaluate the structure because it's an older structure, stucco and wood and so on. So you'll have a report come back that gives you an idea of what it would take to fix it if that's the decision of the commission to fix it. So that's in process now.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you. That's it.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Gilliland?
Yeah, a couple things. After much ado, we actually passed the rebuilding of the greens on the Daytona Beach Golf Course. We're about last in line to get it done in the county, or East Volusia at least. But there was one thing that actually came up when I was having lunch over there the other day. That our lease with the restaurant says that it's a 36-hole golf course. So I would expect that we're going to make some kind of concession when it goes down to an 18-hole golf course for 6 months. Is that a good assumption?
We can, yeah.
I mean, they're going to have half as many customers.
If that's in the lease, we'd
I mean, the
certainly
lease
want to
is
do that.
36 holes.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not sure what's fair. I'm not sure if going because half of it's open, if half the rent while the other one's closed is fair or whatnot. But if we could get somebody to start some dialogue with those guys,
Yeah, we'll do that.
they're not getting rich over there, but they're working awful hard. When that place is open, one of the owners or
No,
one of
the
their
food's
relatives
good.
is in there working. I mean, the food is very good. So, but it is something we need to be we need to be fair with them. It's another small business that's not getting rich in this town but working hard and making ends meet. And this is going to hurt them that they kind of have half as much traffic for 6 months as they are accustomed to. There was an article in the paper about us trying to get the state to remove the deed restrictions on the property along the river. That was, I thought, an unfortunate way to communicate what we're trying to do. If you look at City Island, it's 80% developed right now. Parking lots, ballpark, library, courthouse, boathouse. We're not talking about plowing everything under there's a lot of things are going to happen. Tonight we made a commitment that Riverfront Park, that those 20 some odd acres, for the next 50 years is going to be a park. It's important that as we talk about this, that it's not, the public understands that there's no plan to build anything, because right now there is no opportunity to build anything. What we're doing in the future, this gives us the opportunity in the future to be able to review a proposal that might come our way. The answer might be no. If it was something stupid dense and tall and whatnot, I would vote no. But if there's something that came back that had, the right mixture of uses and, wasn't overly dense, it's something that I certainly think, should be considered. The more people we get downtown, and Jim, I think your op-ed was right on point. The more people we get downtown, the more likely it is that it's going to become vibrant. There's a lot of good things going on in that area, and it's the message that needs to get out to the public is we're not building anything. There is no proposal to build a condo or multiple condos, or we're just trying to get to a point where if an opportunity that's good for Daytona Beach presents itself, that we might avail ourselves of that opportunity, because today we cannot.
Sure. I'd just follow up on that just a little bit. As you said, there's no plan, there's no, because it's been alluded to the fact we were going to tear down the library and do different things. We've never mentioned that. It's never been a part of anything that we have looked at. In fact, we've invested in improving the library. We provided a children's area out at the library itself, so it doesn't make sense that we would all turn around and try to, plow all that under. That's not in any plan that we have at this point. But you're exactly right. Our desire was to get the control of our own destiny, so that if and when at some point in the future there's a decision we have to make concerning what we should do with anything that's associated with the island or anything associated with, the Veterans Causeway there, we have the ability to make that decision. Right now, we wouldn't necessarily have that same flexibility, and that's all we're trying to do is get the flexibility at this point.
Actually, when we had the Brown Riverfront Park workshop downstairs, I made a comment about that there wasn't funding for the Veterans Memorial that was intended for the base of the Stead Bridge. I was able to track down Billy Wheeler and ask her where that was. There is some fundraising going on, but their plan is to go after ECHO and Racing Rec money to make that happen, which means there will be many fewer dollars left for Daytona Beach and the things that we would like to do if they eat up $1 million or $2 million of that for the memorial. And I think it's a great memorial. I think it's a great project, but unfortunately, this is going to be one of those give and takes. And it sounds like the horse has left the barn on this one, and that's the route that they're intending on heading and not changing. I'm sure it'll be very nice, but it is a little disappointing that we won't have that opportunity to solicit those funds for other Daytona Beach projects. Unfortunately, I know Aaron left the safe zone. It sounded like he was going in two different directions on that. One was relocating the Bellevue Extension, Clyde Morris safe zone to First Step Shelter. The other was a safe zone run by Catholic Charities that would be part of an intake or overflow facility. If it's that latter, we need to make sure that the First Step Shelter Board and Catholic Charities are involved in that conversation, because it will seriously change the way that their operations are intended at this point. And the chief has said, and I don't mean to put words in your mouth, that the safe zone out at Bellevue and Clyde Morris is not very heavily, occupied. So my concern is if something goes haywire and we end up in the middle, we're going to end up with a tent city out there. And everything you read, San Francisco and places in California that have allowed tent cities, it has been nothing but a disaster. So, we need to be very careful. It's not $100,000 to do this. It's a lot more than that, because we're going to have, the considerations with the operation of First Step Shelter. We're going to have policing matters. Just clearing some land and, making it available for people to be out there is kind of the tip of the iceberg with that particular type of initiative. We did have a few short-term rental problems in Pelican Bay and Indigo over Bike Week. Once again, just to remind everybody, as an event town, short-term rentals is a very dangerous thing. And, there were a lot of complaints that came in for, people leaving early in the morning and revving their bikes and coming home late at night and revving their bikes, and making a mess. And it was, this isn't, the mom and with the couple of children, and that's what they can afford. Evidence continues to present itself that short-term rentals are something that under the current situation where we can't really regulate it by district, it would have to be citywide, is something that I still believe we need to be very cautious with. And lastly, and a couple people have mentioned this to me, for those who don't know, excuse me, my dad passed away last week. So, remember, I lost my brother in November? So it's been the last bad 6 months. I told my sister, that's it. Nobody else will have to die anytime soon. But I do want to say thank you to everybody who's been sending emails and text messages and phone calls and running me the hallway and whatnot, because it does mean a lot. And it was his time. He had been in hospice for 3 years, but doesn't make it hurt any less. But for those who I haven't gotten back to that sent something, I just want to say thank you.
Well, my condolences to you. I didn't learn until today, but certainly. Yes,
Before you begin your comments, I'd just like to add one thing, and I know you're going to talk about this, but I just want to talk about this little piece. Last night, the mayor had his first of several town hall meetings, and I think that's going to be greatly appreciated by the citizens, because some people think we're untouchable, that they can't get to us, and I think that starting that is going to really change the atmosphere, the perspective, and the just what they think about us. But something that came out of that I wanted to address was about the Leisure Services Board. I recall when this board, well, first of all, there are 2 vacancies on that board, and it was shared with us last night that it's difficult for them to have a quorum when we don't have representation. Now, I got a zone 6 person, so you have to ask Betty who's missing from the board, but somebody, 2 of y'all up here don't have representation on that board, so please find out if the Leisure Services Board is somewhere you don't have a representative so that they can have a quorum and they can pass things, all right? Betty Goodman can tell you she's over boards. But what came out of that was there was a transition that took place with that board, and they had been told, because we used to have like a tennis board or a golf board, that they would still be responsible for those 2 things. And those 2 things were stricken from them when the Leisure Services Board came back together. And I'd like to know why.
Tennis and golf.
Yeah, the golf course was under them, and also the tennis court was under them. And neither of those are part of the Leisure Services Board's responsibility, and those are leisure activities that we sponsor, and that is a citizen-driven board that monitors activities. And I'd like to know why that was taken from them, and who's monitoring it now if they are not. Okay? All right.
Okay. Okay, I don't have a whole lot because a lot has been said and a lot has been done. I will say that I thought last night's conversation was fruitful, and I'll say this about our residents. They're passionate about their city. Most of them choose to live here and want to be here in our city, and they just want our city to be a better place, not just for themselves, but primarily, looks like to me, for other folks. Most of the folks that are talking, were talking last night, weren't really talking about things that related directly to them. There were a few people that had their own agenda, but most of them's agenda was all encompassing, and that's refreshing to see. So I will continue to reach out and have more of these in different portions of the community, but I will also go back to this community, and the next time I will bring some staff with me to help answer some of the questions where they feel that there may be a little bit of a disconnect or an inability or a misunderstanding about how to do certain things. You know, maybe someone from permits and licensing can come and talk about this process of how I navigate that, you know, what you would have to do to get a certain type of permit or a certain type of license, why a license is required for certain things, just to begin to do a little bit more of a point of educating folks about these processes. So I thought that was good, and I look forward to doing more of it and finding ways to build a bridge between residents and their government, which is us, and what we do and what is done through your offices. And I would like to commend Ms. Goodman again for Citizens Academy. Didn't make mention of this last night, although I wish I had, because very seldom have I ever encountered anyone who went through the Citizens Academy who had a whole lot of questions about things. You know, you almost wish that it could be a part of like a civics program for people when they graduated from high school. It would be a wonderful thing for them to experience, because it would eliminate a lot of misunderstanding about the purpose of government, but about the many ways that things are done in the city. And so, again, commendations for you for doing a great job, because when I encounter people who've been through there, not only do they have a better understanding of the city, they also seem to have a deeper appreciation for what is done by the people who work here. So would like to encourage that. Thank you again. City Manager's report looks fabulous, and it is precisely what I was hoping to see. Again, it highlights much of what we have talked about tonight. I'll just make mention of First Step Shelter progress hit a milestone, and when you look at the development that's going on and you see those walls going up, there were many people who have said over the last 2 years, I'll believe it when I see the walls go up, or I'll support it when the walls go up. Well, the walls are going up, so we need that support and that money that you guys were saying that you'd give when the walls went up. So let's let that be noted. And that's it for me. Does it have anything?
Just to cover a couple of things that's in the report. On the 27th, that's next Wednesday, I believe, there's a town hall meeting at Daytona State College at the Advanced Technology Center, where we're going to be talking about the half-cents sales tax. And then there's a series of meetings that we've got scheduled in the city in the various zones, and it's on the website of the city. I don't have them listed here, but it's an opportunity for each zone, and people live in those neighborhoods will be in their neighborhoods to talk about the half-cent sales tax and what it means to them, and what roads are involved in those programs, and what other improvements are proposed. Mm-hmm. And along those lines, we've just added a couple things in the package of information concerning the half-cent sales tax. One is a specific recognition that the Main Street neighborhood area has roads that are going to be improved and infrastructure improved, and also the Fairway Estates area will have in that program is about $13 million that's identified for the flooding that occurred in that part of the city, including the Midtown area.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay. Any other comments, sir? No comments. Okay, we will convene pretty much immediately. This meeting is adjourned. So, if you have All right, let's go.
Okay, our first speaker tonight is Marjorie Johnson, and on deck is John Nicholson.
Yes.
Okay, I'm concerned that my garbage was not picked up on Monday. It was not picked up on Wednesday. And I called and reported it, and they still didn't pick it up. So it's still on the curb. There was an article in the newspaper today about City Owl, and I want to go on record stating that we want the library to remain at City Owl and all the other facilities there. The county spent over $1 million to get that library repaired after the hurricane. Also, we lost one of our great commissioners who did a good job when he was up here for Zone 6. Creamy Hayes, Everett Creamy Hayes, who represented Zone 6. So I attended the funeral over at the Catholic Church. Also, I would just like to say that we need to diversify our workforce. It's not diversified. When you got here as mayor, we had 3 African Americans that's making over 100,000. They're all gone. One of them was Percy Williamson, Huger, Tommy Huger, and the other one was Emily Counts. So the workforce is not being diversified, and things are getting worse, not better. And I'm not pleased about that. I'm also concerned that there is no accountability, no transparency from you, Mayor Hendry, and also from Paula Reed, Commissioner of Zone 6. That street there from Orange Avenue to Martin Luther King in front of the Dickinson Center has not been paved. It's been 6 years for both of you in 3 months. And like they spoke earlier, we want some of our taxpayers' dollars reinvested in our community, and that is not happening. Also, I would like to say that I've tried to set up meetings with Ms. Reed. She has not responded to meetings she missed, and she never rescheduled. This is what I'm talking about, accountability. And tonight when she prayed, she said something about representing all the citizens. Well, the citizens are not represented, and they're not happy. The city manager is making over $300,000. All of you up here need to do your job. Make it happen.
Mr. Mayor, if I may. You know, the definition of insane is to keep saying the same thing, expecting different results. And every Wednesday, the same thing, over and over and over again. First of all, I will not be demeaned on Facebook and then expect to sit down with you and have an intelligent conversation. If you treat me with respect, I'll do the same. When it comes to the space between Orange Avenue and International MLK, we have said time and time again, perhaps we're outside courting folks when this is being discussed, but what we've said is we've had 3 bids on that area, and we have yet to be satisfied with those bids, but it's going to be done. As long as I'm sitting in this seat, it's going to be done. I don't have to answer to one citizen. I was voted in office by more than one person. And I have spoken to that person and met with that person more than I've met with any other citizen, just as you have. And that citizen does not speak for Zone 6. And if they don't know it, I'll tell them so.
Oops. Oh, sorry.
My next speaker is John Nicholson, and on deck is Jim Schultz.
You and your smile, Mayor.
Hey.
John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. One, I want to thank you for bringing up the issue on salaries and compression. It's high time, and I think we should do it regularly every 10 years, just to keep us in the loop. Secondly, on the half-penny sales tax, was at the county this morning. There's still no money at all from the county for the city of Daytona Beach. We're the only one not getting any water money in our city. And so far, Jim doesn't have any issues. There's a bond here for, I don't know whether it's 50, 62, 47, whatever it is. I couldn't figure it out. There's a bond to do water things, so we're paying it even though there's money from the county to do it. Secondly, the walls are up and the roof is sort of kind of going on, slowly, but at least the walls are up. All the walls on the outside are done. Short-term rental, I have now 5 on my block. I'm, of course, 1 block off A1A, but yeah, there were bikers all over. 2 houses left, 2 houses right, across the street, so they are there. Secondly, there's a whole slew of them I had here. If Jim were here, I would ask him to define, because apparently people still don't understand what TIF funds are, and in today's discussion it didn't really hit well. There is money being spent all over the city. All right, we used to hear it all the time. You never spend any money in our area. You never spend any money in our area. The TIF funds, if you don't have the money, you can't spend it, period. And there's certain areas, certain CRAs that are getting no money. Beside it's Blue Road, okay? South Atlantic, there's no money. So they can't spend it there. So I think that has to be totally announced. Half-penny sales tax, in essence, 50% of the people, all the articles in today's paper are negative on the half-penny sales tax. My issue was we're not getting our fair share. Okay? Losing a couple of $100 million matters to me. We lose $100 million a year in sales tax to Tallahassee. We could do a heck of a lot with $500,000. We lose on everything. We lose on the lotto. We lose on Echo. We lose on Volusia Forever, Florida Forever. We lost money on every single one of those. That's a problem. City Island, yes, I understand it in the paper. It does come up. There are 2 areas on City Island, well, one on City Island and one on Marine Island that could be developed, but I don't like the idea of carte blanche. Take a look at Biscayne Boulevard in Miami for what they did to their park on the river. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jim Schultz, and on deck is Joniva Looper.
Jim Schultz, 117 Harvard Drive. I have something to tell you that I'm actually shocked by. I never thought that dental fluorosis or fluoride toxicity could get that much worse as quickly as it has. And guess what our government decided to do? It's not disclose the last study that was done in 2011, 2012. They haven't published it. They haven't disclosed it. It was just recently discovered in a 10,000-page Freedom of Information Act, and a study has been put out on it. It used to be that when fluoridation started, they promised that if more than 10% of the children had even the most minor dental fluorosis, they would halt the process because they would consider that too much toxicity. In 1986-87, the level of dental fluorosis was 22%, 1.2% moderate and severe. 1999-2004, 41%, 3.7% moderate and severe, a 3 times increase. The study that they decided to hide, but guess what they did in between that? They actually had asked to decrease the level of fluoride in the water to 0.7, never mentioning the study that they already had showing disgusting levels. They mentioned the other 2 studies. So they decreased it to 0.7 with a preponderance of precaution. The reality is the bottom had fallen out of their BS. And what happened is 30.4% of the children in the 12 to 15-year-olds had moderate and severe dental fluorosis. That's incomprehensible. How do you poison kids that badly from just toothpaste and fluoride in the water? But that's the data that they have. And instead of sharing it with the public and asking for...
Our next speaker is Joneva Loper, and on deck is Sandra Murphy. Sorry.
Good evening.
Good evening,
Mayor
Ms. Loper.
Henry and all of the commissioners. Can you hear me now? Is that better? Lean in. I don't want to sound muffled, but I do want to be heard. I like for my members to stand because they sent me here representing them as president of the Volusia County chapter of alumni for Bethune-Cookman University. And our concern is really usage of facilities. And it's ironic that both Commissioner Reed and Commissioner Henry brought this to the forefront today, and that consideration of taking another look at what it cost us as citizens of Daytona Beach. Oh, I didn't give you my address. 104 Tuscany Chase Drive, Daytona Beach. But I certainly want you to know that I've been a citizen of Daytona for many, many years. I have utilized all of the facilities, and now we have these new ones that are so gorgeous, and we are being priced out of them. And I'm not just speaking for one group, the alumni. I'm speaking for all of our churches and all of our sororities and fraternities that are finding it very difficult to secure the facilities that we have in our communities. Most recently, we had to cancel the use of facilities because of 1, 30 days pre-booking notice, 2, not to mention the costly rental fees, and 3, the additional $500,000 liability insurance requirement, which we were not aware of. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't pay it, but we need to be given that information before we set up the agreement. So what we are asking is that you will continue to talk it out. Take another look at what it is costing organizations within the community to utilize these beautiful facilities that are sitting there, which will not require us to go somewhere else when they're right in the middle of our community. So this, we are asking for your consideration, and I thank you very much.
Excuse me, can I ask a question? Ma'am, can I ask a question? Yes. Could you give me a quote on what that insurance costs?
That's what I was. Do y'all know? You don't know yet what the
Well,
insurance?
we canceled the process and we sent it to National so that they can look at it, because we are not really aware of what $500,000 would look like in our financial organization, because our chapter is under the national organization, and so if the national has it, then we can utilize it. So we've turned it over to them so that they can take a look at what the cost would be. but we don't have that figure for you, but I certainly would be glad to come back and bring it forth, or even sit
Just
in
send
with
it.
some of the conversation that's going on.
Okay.
Okay?
And I
Thank
believe Kelvin Maynard could probably give that, because for the seafood festival, $1 million was required. And that's
Right.
where she's purchasing that
Right.
from. So just to get a
Okay.
quote.
Okay.
And she only got just the one-day event.
Mhm.
So
One-day
you can get
event.
a one-day event
Mhm.
insurance.
From Kevin?
Kelvin
Maynard?
Maynard.
Yes,
I
I
know
know
Brittany
Kevin.
got
He's
hers
an
from
alum.
him.
Kelvin.
But,
Yes.
you know, I wonder if we could maybe take a look at, Mr. Jagger, if this happens a lot to nonprofits. They're
Yes.
unaware of this, and then it's an extra cost, which they just don't know about. If there is an association or organization that, if they were to apply to it, everybody could go under one policy, or when they come to the city, we at least give them information about where to go or what to do next with regard to the insurance.
Is the new insurance new? Because before it's not.
I've always, when I've rented, I've had to give the insurance. Yeah.
Well, this is the first time that it has been requested by our chapter, and we've utilized multiple facilities across the city, and this was such a shocker to us. And we were thinking that it was something that the city had, the
It's not
liability that covered us, but we found out differently, and that was just recently. And so we canceled our event, and we're having to move it to another place that, one, doesn't cost us as much and doesn't require the same kinds of things.
Did you keep it local? Or did you move out of this? Did you?
Yes, we kept it local.
Okay, all right,
Yes,
thank you.
We did keep it local.
Thank you.
But we want to use the facilities that are right in our community, and they're so gorgeous. We just want to be, you all understand, right?
Yes, we
Thank
understand,
you.
and we have been having a discussion and going to revisit this.
Okay,
in
and I
detail.
appreciate it so very much.
Okay,
And
thank
if
you all.
If I could, with Geneva's comments, she mentioned our fraternities and sororities. A lot of them are, their bylaws require that they do community service. So when they're getting our facilities, is to provide services to our community where they're not charging people, but we're charging them to use the facility. We could probably even go into some kind of partnership with those organizations, because tutoring services, child development, just different things that we do. Most of us have some of the same areas that we have to concentrate on: the arts, health initiatives, educational, political awareness and involvement. And if we're doing the same thing collectively, I like the idea of some umbrella program for organizations like that and have some kind of partnership with them. Because we just had a brunch with the 4 sororities, because they're doing the same thing. And we can address more of our community if the 4 of them come together, and they have committed and are considering committing to having quarterly events for the community collectively as a I guess semi-Panhellenic organization, because the Panhellenic would be the Divine Nine.
That was one of the things that we kind of discussed also last night at that meeting, was figuring ways that we could partner, especially with things that are part of our core mission that we're choosing as a commission, and health is certainly one that I think we're trying to take on. So.
Now, anyway, I just have a question. I'd like to know, if possible, from whomever, the cost to run the building per hour. What am I looking at in terms of I know what the rental fee is. But is there are there more costs associated with that? Or is that fee just pretty well the bottom line? This includes employees and our own insurance and our lights and our power. That's the full price. I just want just per hour. And so it varies? To operate the building.
When we did this
Yeah.
before, that
It's not-
rental price does not cover it.
So that's what I want to know. So,
We lose money at that.
and I'd like to know how much. I'm just really curious as to what that break point is. I'm sorry, sir?
It varies by facility.
Okay, go ahead.
Let's let someone know what we're talking about.
Yeah, it varies by the facility that you want to use, and it's hourly, and it has to be a mandatory of 3 hours. So it depends on what facility you want to use.
Okay. But what you're saying is that right now, with the rate that we're charging right now, we are not in fact breaking even just on the maintenance of the building. What it costs to have you there or somebody to open or close?
No.
We're not covering costs. No.
By how much? 50%? 75? 20%? 10%?
Well, you can't just answer questions like that. Let them come back and tell you.
Oh, sure. No, I'm just curious. I'm just really curious.
Yeah.
It's not an attack, I promise. I'm just
Oh,
really
no.
curious as to what the number is. Okay. All right.
Yeah, because each place is different. But I know last night being even that we were using the facility for of something that we were doing, I looked around at the number of staff that we had in there, and I was thinking, hey, this costs taxpayers money. It was a service for us to communicate with the residents, but there was money being spent having the staff, personnel, lights, and everything on, and I knew that it would not have covered the cost for me to rent the facility.
All right.
Mayor, I know you were there when we went through these discussions about fees and all of that, and we cut, even when we went through it at that time, identifying the cost, we cut the fees way back. It's probably not 50% of the cost of actually operating our facilities. So it's not so much that we're going to recover our cost now, it's how much and what do we want to give special consideration to. I think that's really where you need to focus. Because we're not going to get our money back, but at the same time we can't turn all that revenue loose, because it's helping us pay for those people to stay there.
And for the record, Keith, will you state your name and title?
Keith Willis, Lead Service Director.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Did you have another? Yes, you got
I just
that.
want to make one last comment in regard to what our city manager is bringing forth, that they're not breaking even and blah, blah. But if the buildings are in the community and not being utilized, who's losing anyway? Because if they're just sitting there, and I know if we take our activities somewhere else, these gorgeous buildings are not being utilized for the community like they were before. I grew up in Daytona, and we were there all the time. For every activity, there was always a consideration of going to Dickinson Center for everything, and Cypress Street before it became Midtown, and way before we even had Scarlet Golden. So what will happen to that building? How cold is it when we don't have any usage of it?
And if the fees are lower, you may get more activity, which would generate more funds. Because staff is there anyway. The lights are on anyway.
But now, you all, they are used a little more than you might think now. I go to them, and they have a lot of use. Well, let's not, but, and I'm all with that. I'm all with the other use, because I want them used up. So I want them used up. I want them overflowing.
I think if we concentrate on what we really want to support, the kind of activities, is a way to do that.
Okay. Yeah.
It seems like nonprofits are the thing. The nonprofit and combining seems to be the wave of the future, so it's kind of an interesting approach. They would save everybody money.
Yeah.
And they would have one service at one time and maybe have it more often.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Right. Okay. Yes,
Okay, our next speaker is Sandy Murphy, and on deck is Pierre Louis.
Hello, Sandy Murphy, 136 Park Avenue. Several of you have mentioned tonight the updates that you got from the city manager and how that information was very helpful. I think it would be terrific if that information could be on the website for the citizens' reference as well, because, as you said, many of us hear things that are asked and never see the answers, and I think that would be one more way to put that forward in the community. Last night I attended the community conversation that the mayor held over at Dickerson Center, and a number of comments that night were about how citizens were having difficulty making their way through the business licensing process, the permitting process, that City Hall did not seem to be particularly helpful and welcoming in that regard. I think it would be a very good idea to consider the position of resident advocate or ombudsman, to have somebody in City Hall that if you're having a problem with City Hall, you can go to and say, help me figure this out, or help me get through it. I think that that would alleviate a lot of aggravation on the part of the residents. And finally, Citizens Academy was mentioned. I went through that. It was a terrific program, and I'd like to suggest that you consider taping that and putting it up online. Not everybody can get there during the day to go to these classes or to go to the various sites and see what's going on, but it's fascinating, it's very educational, and I think it would answer a lot of residents' questions. Thank you.
I think that's a good idea. We'll tell Betty the next time she does it. I think that's a brilliant idea, recording it, so I'll ask Betty to see how we can do that the next time she does one. Yeah.
get the whole cycle, so you
Yeah.
know all of
Yeah.
it, so you don't miss.
Yeah, when she does it, the next time you start the cycle. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Our next
Yes.
speaker is Pierre Louis, and on deck is Linda Smiley.
Good evening, lady. Pierre Lewis, 130 South Franklin Street. Even to the mayor, the commissioners. Actually, I wasn't going to speak, but since the commissioner brought up the paper that I gave her, I figured I'd at least address it very shortly, be very brief. But before I actually say that, I attended the community conversation with the mayor, and it was very enlightening. I enjoyed it. It's good to have a helpful debate, and I'll take you up on that offer when MLK is done. I'll be jumping up there. I'll put my dress blues on for you.
Yeah, okay.
I'll salute you on that. So I'm glad to see that, and it's helpful to go to those meetings because you think you know things, but then as you go, your eyes are open to a number of different things. So I'm glad to see that. But what I wanted to address in this last minute was that I brought that paper there and I gave some copies so everybody could take a look at it because of the fact that I mentioned there I'm the chair of the Midtown Redevelopment Board. We've got new members that come there. I'm trying to guide the proceedings so they're following the Land Development Code, but then all of a sudden I find out that the rhetoric, the language has changed over the years, and we're not necessarily informed of that. And you all know that you're running the proceedings here for the commission. If I'm running the chair for the Midtown Redevelopment Board and all of a sudden the language has changed, and I'm trying to make sure that the people that are participating are following along with that, but all of a sudden it's changed, I would like for you to really take a look at this and revisit that, because another thing what actually happens too is that because the language has changed, one time it said we were supposed to discuss a number of areas, now it encapsulates us and says we can only discuss 3 or 4 points at the meeting, such as zoning and stuff like that. What happens is we'll invite citizens all the time because we want them to participate in the process, but because of the fact that it doesn't fit within the new guidelines that in land development codes was changed on us, we end up canceling the meetings. So we end up canceling the meetings, and then pretty soon you've canceled 1 meeting, 2 meetings, 3 meetings, and then all of a sudden the citizens that we have in our particular area say, why do I even need to participate? You're no longer having the meetings, and I'd like to engage them. So that process, so a number of things can be done at the Midtown Redevelopment Board. They can discuss those issues. But the way it's worded now, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's watered down, but it's put to a point where it says that we can only discuss certain things. So I would ask the commission to revisit that, to look at that, and allow us, give us some guidance. You're the CRAs. We're here to support your efforts in there, but present that guidance to our board so we can discuss it in an intelligent way and a sophisticated manner for our board like they do to other boards. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next speaker is Linda Smiley, and on deck is Doyle Lewis.
Linda Smiley, 357 Manhattan. The parks. I guess I'd like to know what the budget for the city parks is now, because I read in the paper that we spend $475,000 for Riverfront Park. And I can tell you that I don't see that money spent there. So I just made me wonder. And also, what do we spend on the other parks? I have Collins Park near me, and it's all chained up. It's unusable, really. Permits and licensing. Since somebody brought that up, I worked down on Main Street for Bike Week, and a couple came into the little shop that I was in, and they said that their son has been trying to get a restaurant open for several years now. I believe it's on the corner of ISB and US 1, and I think they said it used to be a gas station, but they said, I mean, they're getting nothing but the runaround, and it's been years that they've been working on this. We lost Copper Bottom Brewery because they came to the city and we did not welcome them. Now they're doing great in Holly Hill. We lost pickleball because people came here and asked about pickleball and they were met negatively. So now Holly Hill is getting that. So that's a concern. The other thing is, what is the city's rules for sober living houses? Because in the uptown neighborhood, they're being inundated with them. My ex-husband lives on North Street, and he's not complaining, but he said next door to him, they've got 20 people in the house. And across the street from him, they've got 10. And across on the other corner, I don't know how many. But there's 3 right there on that corner of Mulberry and North Street. So, and I know that Peter Lee's is now the sober living house. So, I want to know how many of these houses we have, because we're clamping on the short-term rentals, but what do we got here? You know, it's something we need to look at, because that's a lot of people there and a lot of cars on that corner speeding through there. And they cut, you know, off Ridgewood and they cut off Beach Street and they come straight down that street. Thank you.
Our final speaker tonight is Doyle Lewis.
Hey, Bob, could you write up a little summary for everybody on what Linda just brought up? Because I know that's regulated under federal law and we don't have any say. I think it's important everybody know, you know, really what we can and can't do, and most of it is what we can't do. But it's a question that comes up a lot, and I think it's important everybody, you know, is aware of.
That happens to be in Zone 3. I've been going to the Uptown meetings, and it's a concern for the residents in that area. So I think it's a good idea just to understand it, so when I go to the meeting, I can explain to them this is kind of where we are with it.
Don't get your hopes up you're going to have anything pleasant to tell them. So.
I can
I'll
take it.
circulate something to the commission. I know that there are some federal restrictions, and you have to provide a reasonable accommodation for that, so, yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes,
Final
Mayor.
speaker.
Thank you. Doyle Lewis, Daytona Beach, USA. It's amazing what happens just about every day on these streets between Flagler and here, Bunnell and Palm Coast. It proves life is a puzzle. And it changes every day. Check out the paper. I've only got about 5 or 6. Moody, Attorney General, had an article in the paper today about misuse of drugs and how they're going after bigger dealers on the streets. It's a very interesting article, and I'm glad they're keeping the power going on it, because I ran into somebody that loved street drugs, and he didn't like me. Comes back to the First Step Shelter. I'm glad to see the tilt walls going up. I would never put the safe zone right beside it. I was down at Salvation Army. Salvation Army had some people there to make sure people were safe. They had problems there. I would never put the safe zone beside the First Step Shelter because of that. And all the studies I've studied about tents and cities from California to here, it's not a good idea. They have a hard time getting rid of the tent cities that's pretty close to the buildings. The safe zone and street drugs, I think the cats out there are going to help that. Because most drug dealers and stuff will have a big dog. So that's going to be interesting. And I was wondering why they came out there. And my last one. I got 33 seconds. That's pretty good.
Yeah, you're doing all right.
Whenever I see a blue light special in Daytona Beach or Flagler County, they taught me when I was driving a car to always pull over safely. That way, the person who had the lights on top of the car could give me my presents. I always do that. Thank you.
Good night, Daytona Beach.